Hi, and welcome back to a podcast above a convenience store talking Twin Peaks. I'm Joe Fremming from the Joe Down. With me, as always, is Paul Muad'Dib from Cast That Movie. Paul, how are you doing?
We're back. I'm doing good. Thanks for asking. Been about a month, but yeah, no, we are back. We're about 95%, almost 100. So we're golden.
Good. Yeah, it's good to be back. I have not watched any Twin Peaks in between. It was a nice kind of like a little break away from it. Considering all I've been watching this summer was Twin Peaks and The Office, it was nice to switch things up a little bit.
Agreed. I did not watch any Twin Peaks in this time off because I wanted to, like we've been doing it. I watched it the day of, so I took a week off, a month off, and that was nice. I will admit it was kind of a nice break, but I was ready to come back.
Yeah, and boy, do we come back into quite an episode that has a lot going on, more than I remembered, which was kind of surprising. Considering the episode before this, we both felt almost like a placeholder episode that just kind of slowly moved the story along. This one kind of, I don't remember it doing this, but it kind of shoots things out of a cannon a bit.
Yeah, I didn't remember it doing that as well. I didn't quite remember that it plugs so. I remember, again, I haven't watched it since it aired, and I could have sworn this was laid out a little slower, but no, this is like an episode that has a lot in it at once.
Yeah. So what we're talking about is part 7. There's a body, all right.
There's a body, all right. I love that title.
Yeah, and so we started off kind of unusual with Jerry Horne high as fuck in the woods.
Man, I lost my car. I don't know where my car is.
He calls his brother on his cell phone.
David Patrick Kelly will always be amazing to me. I think this was an amazing opening to the episode.
Yeah, I mean, you're not really expecting it, considering the last episode, I believe it ends with, with Cole and Albert bathed in blue talking about a Blue Rose case, and now, hey, it's Jerry Horne
in the woods talking about his missing car.
Oh.
Holy shit, so funny.
I don't know where I am.
I don't know where I am. Jerry, and then he hangs up on Ben.
and then we kind of get back into it's this kind of like is a weird because it starts off pretty hilarious, and then like we kind of get into like, oh, remember that scene in Fire Walk with Me where Annie shows up in Laura's bed and tells her to write it in her diary? Well, we finally get that diary piece as Doc and Truman are going through these missing pieces they found in the bathroom.
So this is where we start to see that time is not linear. I mean, this is if we've talked about it where we felt like, there's been things pointing to the time not being linear in the lodge. This right here is proof. Like, this is the fact that Laura is talking about Cooper and Annie, two people she's never met, and talking about the good Cooper. And Hawk is awesome because he's putting it together like, well, what happened to then who came out? Like, who was that Cooper?
Yeah, and Frank's pretty, like, for a law enforcement kind of guy, because they're usually, like, hard evidence sort of situation. He's pretty, like, he's kind of following along, and I think we've talked about it a bit. Like, I think the timers in Twin Peaks on the police department are more attuned to the log ladies' cryptic notes. And when we brought up those notes in the bathroom, I remember saying it was like a fan theory that Leland hid them. I totally forgot that.
I thought the same thing. I'm like, we thought that was a fan theory. That was from the episode. Yeah. So you're absolutely right. That they confirmed that was during one of the times that he was brought in for questioning that he hid them in there.
Yeah, and again, it's suspicious because Cooper and Annie are two people who have never been to Twin Peaks while Laurel was alive. So
Yes.
that's kind of disconcerting.
So I want to go on a tangent for a little bit, if we may. So what do you think about that? So here's something. We know that time, it doesn't really make sense in the lodge. So here we have Leland, essentially in season 1, with these pages of the diary, knowing that essentially he's going to win. Does that, to me, that almost changes the whole dynamic of the show.
Yeah, it's interesting. Hawk, and this was the thing we were talking about too. Hawk brings up these pages were also missing from Harold Smith's when they found the diary at Harold's. Meaning that also brings a new level. Like now, like it gives more credence to my suspicion that Leland might have gone there and destroyed the place, looking for the diary, and maybe even killed Leland. Or not Leland, fucking Harold.
Maybe, yeah. No, it does.
We don't know, but it gives a little more evidence to that. That's and the reason he pulls it out of the diary is it's the hard evidence saying, I know it's him. I know who Bob is.
Yes. But however, again, he now, because I mean, Bob didn't know who Cooper was till he came in, right? So again, he has these 4 pages. Yes, it does say, I know who it is. It's not Bob, I know who he is. But it also, again, tells him that he's going to basically win, that Cooper, the good Cooper, is going to be locked in the lodge. So again, it like I said, to me, it kind of changes the whole dynamic of the show in terms of like what Bob knew and how Bob was going about his plan. Yeah.
I think, and again, we don't know how far into the future the lodge entities know, but Bob doesn't seem like a long-term planner. He's just kind of like in the moment. So I'm thinking, even like at that, he sees he won, he was victorious. He kind of just goes about his plan anyway, because to be victorious, it's like the Bill and Ted thing. He has to get Dale in the lodge, so it's just like, well, he'll just go in the future and sneak Dale into the lodge, and then
right. So yeah, no, it's really, really interesting. Like just kind of the idea of how the lodge entities operate and like what they know and kind of the time and just how much they're kind of fucking with humans. And when you think about in terms of what David Lynch is kind of talking about, and kind of the metaphors and things that he makes, I was trying to think about what is the meaning of that particular thing, and I think it goes to kind of his idea of destiny, of you can't escape what is destined to happen. I think is one of the things that Lynch is trying to say here.
Yeah, and we've brought up the comparisons before to Slaughterhouse-5, and that kind of plays into that too. Billy Pilgrim knows what's going to happen in the future and in the past, and it's set in stone, so he can't even change it if he wanted to.
Yep, and I think that's kind of what Lynch is getting at here, is no matter how much you fight, no matter what you try to do, what is going to happen is going to happen, and you have to just rely on the journey.
And that's part of my theory of the ending of this series too. But we'll get to that when we get to that.
So, okay. So I just wanted to go on that tangent. So let's continue with the episode.
Okay. Well, so we get a moment where Frank calls Harry. Harry's not doing well. It's this little, it's a short scene, but it kind of lets us know that Harry S. Truman is not, he's not well. And this is followed up by Andy doing some groundwork. Finds the truck that killed the kid. That was Audrey's son.
Yep, Richard Horne.
Horne. Yep. And this is who I believe is Billy.
That's what I was gonna say. I think that's Billy as well. Yep.
Yeah, I think it's Billy. He lent Richard the truck. He's scared for his life. He doesn't want to be seen talking to Andy. We'll find out why later on in the series a bit. So I think it's like 2 or 3 episodes after this that we find out like Richard doesn't leave a lot behind loose ends.
No.
So,
No.
yeah, so Billy's rightfully frightened, and he wants to set up a rendezvous with Andy where he can talk and not be seen, talking to law enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have to meet in 2 hours. I like how David Lynch was like, he's like, meet me in 2 hours. Like, we have no idea how time works. And even in the regular, the return, because there's things that I believe kind of happened in the past.
Right.
So it's like, oh, thanks, David. Yeah, 2 hours later, it shows up like 8 episodes later.
Right. Yeah. We don't know when the 2 hours is, but yeah, Andy, you know, I will say seeing Andy, he's really grown into his police role. He's doing a lot better than what he was 25 years ago.
He hasn't grown into that haircut, though. Holy man, he's got
or that gut. He does not do well with a gut.
Well, time.
I mean, I can't say much. I got a gut now these days,
yeah,
but
either,
but I'm not tall and lanky.
We're fat shaming Andy.
We're fat shaming Andy when we're fat ourselves. Fucking A.
Let's talk to like what probably is one of my highlights of this episode is we get one final scene with Warren Frost. Mark Frost's father played Doc Hayward via Skype with Frank Truman.
Yep. Do you know what Skype is, Doc? Yeah, I used it a while ago to diagnose Mrs. Whatever's eczema. Wow, no HIPAA laws with you, is there, Doc? That's all I could think of with that one. I'm like, wow, no HIPAA. All right, good to know.
Yeah, it was good to see Warren. When they filmed this, he was toward his last days. I believe he had dementia.
Yeah.
This must not have been an easy thing to film, especially if somebody. I had grandparents with that, and it's touch and go. But it was good to see him, and he gives us some insights of when he brought Cooper to Calhoun Hospital.
Yes, he does, and he talks about how he went into the ICU ward, and who was in the ICU ward?
Agent Cooper.
Agent Cooper. Yep. And who else, though? Who else was there? Audrey. Yep, that horrible bank business.
Yeah, she was in a coma, as we briefly discussed during our Secret History podcast. But the implication here, I remember when I first saw this, I was like, oh no, he raped her. He raped her. Like,
that's where my head went. That's exactly where my head went. I'm like, oh shit, he raped her. Yeah. And
he also brings out, he's like, he also mentions like Cooper had that strange look on his face. Yeah. It seems like Doc Hayward noticed something was wrong with Cooper after that night in Ghostwood.
Yes, and he makes that up, that strange face, and he tried to call to him and he wouldn't respond to him. He just left. And I think about later we'll see the look I think he was giving him, which is the one that he gives Diane when he's in prison.
Yeah, he's Mr. C's a predator. He's like Bob. Monsters. But it's good to see Warren Frost again. I love Warren Frost. He plays Susan Ross's dad on Seinfeld, and he's with his wife, who's also Grace Zabriskie.
Yep. So. No, he does, and he was talking about his passing. He passed away, unfortunately, earlier that year before the show was actually aired. He passed away on February 17th of 17. Yeah. So a couple months prior to the show being aired.
Yeah. Great actor. I love him. But
great actor.
But we have to move things along, and we meet Air Force Colonel, whatever,
Cynthia Knox. Yep.
Cynthia Knox, and setting up a meeting with Mackley in Buckhorn, South Dakota, because the Prince.
Because of the prince. And she's wondering where they got the prince from. And she finds out there's a body, all right.
There's a body, all right. And, we've been kind of dancing around this, but I think with Air Force people and the fact that her superior's name is Davis, this is, we finally find out and inexplicably that Major Briggs has been found decapitated, but his body's still in his late 40s.
Yes. It is basically confirmed that this is Briggs, and that the colonel, Colonel Davis, is going to have to call, obviously who we assume is going to be Cole, to explain to him what's going on. But yes, and this is what throws her off. She finds it super weird. That, first of all, she didn't expect to find a body. She just thought the prince came from something, because that's apparently a pattern that's been going on. And then she verifies with Talbot that it is a man in his 40s who just died in the last week when he should have been in his 70s.
Yeah. And so she's basically, holy shit, and she goes in the hall to call Davis and let him know that it's more than Prince this time. It's a body, and it's very, like we said, the age doesn't match. And as she's talking, we start hearing this intense humming noise.
And we see something for the second time in the series, right?
A fucking woodsman.
A fucking woodsman walking through. Why do you think the woodsman's there?
Well, they've just discovered Briggs's body, so I'd imagine last time we saw Briggs was when he was a giant floating head. Well, Cooper was in the space box or whatever. So, lodge entities are afoot now in Buckhorn. Well, we've already saw the one in the jail cell. Now we saw another one walking by. She sees it, which is means that they can see these things. They just don't pay them any mind. They probably just think it's some bum.
Yeah, well, I think she was visibly concerned when she saw it, because she wanted to get away from there. She went back in the room. So yeah, no, they are. Now she needs to stay there and keep the body under wraps. So that's what's going to happen there. Then we jump to why I know that they're going to call that next is going to be Gordon, who's talking to Albert about how his meeting with Diane went.
Oh,
Joe, how did that meeting go?
Let's say the scene starts pretty. There's a lot of Easter eggs here. Mm-hmm. One is he has a framed painting of corn on his wall, and it pans to the White Sands explosion of the A-bomb. There's a giant mural painted behind him while he's whistling a Rammstein song.
Yes. There's a lot of Easter eggs going on in there, and I fucking love it. And in walks a not-so-amused Albert.
Did not go well.
Did not go well. She told him to go fuck himself.
What was it? He said, when she asked me, this is about Cooper, isn't it? I said, yes. No fucking way, she said. He sent her home.
No fucking way. So I ended up back home almost with pneumonia. How'd your evening go?
So basically, Albert's balls in your court, Gordon. You have to do this. Albert then says Cole wants Albert to come with him now. Ball's in Cole's court. He wants Albert with him, and we get this nice exchange between Albert and Cole, where we see Albert doesn't buy all of Cole's bullshit, not being able to hear nonsense.
I love that part. He's like, say please. What? You heard me.
Just like a meek child. Please.
Please. So awesome. So we get to Diane's apartment where she just got done banging some dude.
Way to go, Diane.
Right? You got this, Diane. And she's not thrilled to see them.
No, she keeps telling him, "Fuck you, Gordon. Fuck you, Albert."
Yeah, I love this. I love Laura Dern as this character. I really do. It's amazing. She doesn't get a lot of talking, but I just love the attitude she gives. You just believe that this is how she really feels.
Yeah, and we don't ever. I can't remember seeing Laura Dern in a role like this.
Mm-mm.
Where she's in control of the room. Like, she doesn't take shit from anybody. Like, you know, yeah. It's great seeing her like as this like super confident character who's just like, I don't want anything to do with you people.
Yeah, it's great to see. It's absolutely great to see. And she does it so well. But Gordon knows how to talk to her, and gets her to kind of come along, and and they're on the flight and they get the prints and how the prints don't work. And we get the really interesting, we know that Preston's not in the Blue Rose yet, right? They're grooming her for Blue Rose.
Yep. And Cole at one point, when she's pointing out the reverse prints, Cole repeats the Yurev,
Mm-hmm.
the backward word, he says, which Cooper relayed to him, is, and the spiritual finger is the one that's reversed. And he tells her to think about that.
I know. I'm very happy. I'm happy to see you. Very, very happy to see you again. And he pulls on her fingers and is like, this one's the spiritual finger. So you think about that.
Yeah. And this is like, and this scene here and the scene before it, this is where when I first watched, I realized, while we don't get a full Cooper, we get a Cooper stand-in in Gordon Cole. He does the damn good coffee line in Diane's apartment. He's the quirky FBI man, so I like that. And so like Cole and Albert are kind of like our stand-ins for Harry and
Yes,
the original series.
and I love this. I love this, love this, love this. I would have loved to have seen a show with just Albert.
Yeah, the Albert Cole mysteries.
Yeah, the Albert Cole mysteries would have been amazing, because it is fantastic. So we know that she is not thrilled. Diane is not thrilled to see her in this prison.
No, and they bring up the only known photo of Cooper, a hilariously Photoshop of Kyle MacLachlan in front of Al Capone's old former home.
It's so bad. It's so bad. Yeah, it's hilarious. And so they bring up the picture and they go to the prison, and she is visibly shaking when she's getting ready to see Cooper. And he asks, we basically also get the gist through their conversation, because he asks when's the last time they saw each other, which was at her house. She asks if she remembers what happened. If he remembers that night, he'll always remember that night. And you basically get, that he raped her. So not only is Mr. C a notorious killer, awful, but this guy's also a serial rapist. This guy just rapes. He just rape.
Yeah, and this is because her face sells this.
Yes,
she's doing some this is award-winning acting to me, because you just get it from her shaking and the look in her eyes that this man hurt her. We don't need an exposition dump on what happened. Like, we know what happened based off her facial mannerisms and all that. It's
her pantomiming. It's pantomiming, and it is brilliant.
And it's so unsettling to watch. And you and up until this point, you really don't have a reason to feel one way or another about Diane. She's almost like comic relief, and then you really feel for her at this point. Mm-hmm. Oh God, she's reliving a trauma right now. And what you brought up earlier, Mr. C has that look on his face.
Yes, and I think that's the look. That's the strange look that he gave, because going back, watching this thing, and I've been taking a break for a while. I always, I watched an interview actually not too long ago, with Kyle MacLachlan talking about his roles with David Lynch, and he doesn't. Kyle MacLachlan himself does not look like Mr. C, right? It's this weird thing. I don't know. I don't know how he did it, but he doesn't look like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it's the weird spray tan and the goofy coif.
Yeah, but it's also something like with the mouth.
Yeah,
it's
and his
something
eyes. He's wearing black contacts too, which make his eyes black.
Yeah, maybe that's what's throwing me off is the black eyes as well. But yeah, this does not look like the Cooper that we knew. Not, I mean, obviously, again, the spray can, all that stuff, but I mean, just the way he's holding his face is not Cooper, the way Cooper holds his face.
And she has a very interesting line too. Like before she shuts the thing, she yells, "Who are you?"
Mm-hmm.
This is not. I'd imagine this is probably the exact same thing that the night he attacked. This is not the Cooper who was doing, the door calisthenics like we saw in the missing pieces of her office.
No, it's not. And again, this episode as well goes back to why you need to see missing pieces, right? It's so important. But she eventually closes the thing. She can't handle it anymore. And Gordon gets the sense that something happened.
Yeah,
and
starts consoling her. And I just noticed this. He doesn't when she hugs him. He does not put his hands on her.
No, he doesn't.
That was an interesting, especially with sex assault victims.
Yep.
You don't touch. That was an interesting thing I've never picked up until I saw this.
Yes, David Lynch. God, I love how progressive David Lynch is, honestly, and just how seriously he takes shit. Because you're exactly right. He does, and that's what you're taught. Don't hug. Don't touch them. Just let them have a place to console themselves on, and that's exactly what he does. And then we cut to Cooper telling. How does this guy do this? He's just you tell the warden that I want to talk to him about a strawberry. I'm sorry. If I was a prison guy, I'd be like, yeah, fuck you, buddy, and just walk away.
Yeah, that I was wondering about that too. I mean, that guard has no incentive to do that for Mr. C. There's no reason, but he does it, whatever.
Yeah, that was a bit off to me, but yeah, we're gonna go with it because it moves the story forward. And but we cut back to Andy, who's supposed to be meeting Billy.
Yep.
And he's over, and
we get a gist of what happened to Billy.
Yeah, his house is his truck is still at his house, and his door's wide open.
So ominous music playing.
Yeah, we know something didn't go well. And again, what we know of Richard Horne, he wasn't going to let this slide. So Andy leaves, rightfully so. Then we get the Mr. C's with the warden.
Yeah.
Such an interesting conversation.
Yeah, basically, my understanding is Mr. C hired goons to kidnap his dog. He cut off a leg to prove that they have it. And he's using this leverage against him. But there's another thing they also bring up, and it's a Joe McCluskey, which I don't think we ever hear about again, but it just seems like there's a connection between the kidnapped dog named Mr. Strawberry and Joe McCluskey, whoever the fuck that is.
Yeah, he goes, yeah, he found the one dog leg in my trunk. The other 3 were sent out to people who could pose a threat if anything bad were to happen to me, and they'd have information you don't want to get out. And he's like, how do you know? And he's like, Joe McCluskey. And all I could think of in that moment was Tropic Thunder. McCluskey! What it is, McCluskey!
Oh. Yeah, so Mr. C's leveraging whatever the dog leg and McCluskey means. We don't know. We never find out.
Never find. He says, I don't care about you. You will never hear from me or about our late friend, Mr. Strawberry. I don't give a shit. Just give me a rental car cheap, which is a kind of a Cooperism in a
Yeah.
way.
And
And
rent for him and that fucker Ray.
that fucker Hay with a friend in the glove compartment, and they comply. And we'll get to that. Meanwhile, finally we get back to Dougie Cooper.
At Lucky 7 Insurance.
Lucky 7 Insurance. And Janie's waiting outside, and Janie is impatient.
Oh, yeah. Another great role here with Naomi Watts, man. Like her, like being like another headstrong lead female character. Just again, I love her. I love Janie so much. She's there. And Sizemore's characters in Dougie's office, like, what were you telling Bushnell? What were you telling Mullins? Like,
yep, and Dougie's not saying shit. He's just drunk. By the way, I also want to bring up that this is still the same day. Again, we haven't been around for a month because of my surgery, but this is the same day. Janie just got done talking earlier that afternoon with the two fucking guys and totally fucked them out of their money. And now she's there to get done. I mean, she's had a hell of a day.
Yeah, she's in no mood for this, and she storms into his office. Well, no, she doesn't storm in yet. Cooper's doodling, and the couple detectives show up. One of them, David Koechner, who I fucking love.
I love him.
And we have this, we've had him on the Office podcast, right?
We've had him on the Office podcast.
Yes, Todd Packer.
Todd Packer. Yep, Yep, Officer Todd Packer shows up.
Yeah.
And they're talking. They want to know more about Dougie's car. And what I love is Dougie's just not saying shit, right? Like, just he's still nothing's clicking there. And Janie's doing all the talking from it. It's so suspicious. And then Bushnell comes in and he's like, "But you found the car, didn't you?"
Yeah. You guys found the car, do you? And it's like my favorite is they ask, where's the last place you seen the car? And Janie just yells, "If we knew that, we would know where to find it, wouldn't we?"
God damn it, Janie. I love that. She's just so flustered and just done with the day. It's amazing. And so they find out that, hey, it's been stolen by, it was blown up by these by a car theft gang. And they're like, "Well, there you go, motherfuckers. Like, let me go home." And Todd Packer wants to continue pushing her, and the other guy's like, "We'll worry about this at your convenience." Right?
Yeah, it was like, I love it. Like, "Well, there you go" thing. That's such a Midwestern thing. Like, just to end a conversation, like, "Well, there's all the evidence you need." Well,
there you go. We're done here.
Well, there you go.
Well, there you go. It is a Midwestern thing. Well, there you go. Oh. And Bushnell wants to continue talking about the files, but then is also intimidated. Everyone's intimidated by Janie at this point. Like, "Well, just deal with everything tomorrow. Go home."
Oh, yeah, and they start walking out. The music starts getting more ominous, and this is one of those scenes, and it operates as, one, it's fucking hilarious. Two, it's fucking weird.
Yes.
Three, it's a red herring to us thinking maybe Cooper's coming back. It operates at all these levels, in that as they're walking out, Ike the Spike comes running
running out with a gun. Ike the Spike comes running in and is gonna shoot, and Cooper fucking goes ninja mode, man. It's awesome.
Is that like muscle memory, you think, with Cooper?
Yeah.
It has to be, because he just arms him like full on FBI mode, law enforcement guy. Like, he karate chops him in the throat twice.
Jesus Christ. And meanwhile, the bubblegum tree shows up. Yeah. Squeeze his hand off.
Yeah, he just pops out of a crack in the ground. Like, the first time I saw that, I thought, like, maybe I was having an acid flashback or something. Like, that can't happen. What the fuck?
You have the bubblegum tree. The arm is fucking egging Cooper on. Squeeze his hand off. Squeeze his hand off.
And he comes pretty close because the cops are taking statements after this. Ike runs away.
Yep.
After 2 karate chops in the throat, he's probably not feeling too well. And we see part of his palm is stuck on the gun.
Stuck on the. Jesus Christ! How hard was he pushing on him?
Oh.
I mean, holy shit! Could you imagine?
Oh man, yeah, that scene is it's hilarious and crazy, and again, it worked. So like we see Cooper in action, like oh shit, Cooper's back. Nope, he's still Dougie. It was just like muscle memory.
Yep. It was just muscle memory. Dougie's, yeah, it was a red herring, totally. And so a couple things happen there. You see Janie look at him in a romantic way that she hasn't looked at him before. Up to this point, I caught that. And the other thing is all the interviews. I love that. Just that he took the time. He smelled funny.
He smelled funny. Yeah, and with the Janie look, this is like first time she's probably ever seen Dougie take action, and kind of like stand the ground or something. I'm sure he's the Dougie what we saw in the beginning of the series before Cooper comes in. He was just kind of a schmucky son of a bitch who was just like a pushover. Obviously, with his dealings with the Sizemore character, that doesn't surprise me. So, yeah, she's kind of like she's got the fuck me eyes going.
Yeah, she does. She's got the fuck me eyes going. Speaking of fuck me eyes, going back to the Great Northern.
Oh. Yeah, I used to say they're still using the B-roll from the pilot of the exterior of the fucking Great Northern.
Yeah, they are. It's still the pilot B-roll, which is amazing. There's a weird hum, and Ben and Beverly are trying to figure it out, and they are getting awfully close to each other.
Yeah, this is also a weird. Ashley Judd, pretty big actress, like just. Not a huge role, but I like her character Beverly. She's obviously wanting to sleep with the boss, and this is like a different Ben than we know because in the original series he'd be all over that.
Oh God, yes.
But here he's pretty respectful, and he's kind of like she's giving him the awkward, moments of silence where she's probably expecting him to lean in and kiss. He's not going for it. But some other things happen here is she's like, this came in the mail. It's Cooper's old room key.
Yeah.
Jade gives 2 rides through in the mailbox.
Jade gets 2 rides. That'll never get old. And we learned that to us for us who's watching the show, Laura Palmer is still kind of is a thing. And this is something that David Lynch is hammering us over the head on. The town's moved on.
Yeah.
Life has gone on since Laura Palmer died. Beverly has no idea who Agent Cooper was, who Laura Palmer was. And Ben's like, that's a long story. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of what, again, these things that Lynch is hitting you over the head with. This, I thought, was one of the more obvious.
Yeah, we hold on to the nostalgia of that, and the town where this is supposedly taking place. They've moved on. Again, Beverly has no idea who Laura Palmer was. I mean, yeah, it was probably a pretty big thing in 1989, but it's 2016, 2017. She has no idea who this is. I don't know if she's from there or what, but like the town's moved on, and we see this in like the Roadhouse scenes too and all that. It's just like the same shit. They still have the same problems, but it's just like they're not really dwelling on the past that much. It's kind of like us, the viewer, dwell on the past of Twin Peaks more than the people in Twin Peaks do.
Yes, that's exactly, you nailed it. That's exactly the point I was getting at, is where we as the audience are hanging on to these things, and what basically Lynch is trying to tell you here is stop it. Fucking stop it. The town's moved on, the show's moved on, you move on. So he, eventually he tells her very gently to go home. She's done for the day. Beverly goes home, and we find out her husband has cancer, and she just screams at him.
Yeah, that was that's a rough thing to see. Like, I'm sure she's frustrated. The character is, but
Yes.
I mean, that's not an easy scenario for anybody to be in. But yeah, it kind of made, you know, watching it, I've only known this character for like the last 5 minutes. Like, what a bitch.
Well, so there's a couple of things I was thinking about this scene, and again, this is another tangent we can go on. It's going to be a delicate tangent, I think. We have to. There's going to be some correctness. I think we're going to have to dance around here. Obviously, he's terminally ill, and she's staying late at work, and obviously, the whole thing is he's concerned that she's cheating, that she's having an affair. And I thought about this, because, at that point, she's got a point, and, he's got a point. I mean, this is one of those situations where I think, she's pissed off because she really, I mean, yes, she wanted to fuck the boss. She does. And she got kind of caught, in that, in this with him accusing her. But at the same time, he's got to realize she's got a life to live too. Like, I think about that, in my marriage right now, me being, me going through the surgery, and, it's one of those things where I couldn't do a whole lot this last week. I kind of felt inadequate around the house because I'm not allowed to bend over. I'm not allowed to lift. I can't do anything. I couldn't do anything over 10 pounds. Still technically can't. And so I, looking at that scene and kind of thinking about it from this guy's point of view, though, if I was terminally ill and I know I'm going to die and I'm in a wheelchair and whatever, let your significant other do what they're going to do. That's kind of my take on it. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I guess I see that. But again, like, he's on a lot of pain meds too. Drugs exacerbate paranoia.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, I don't think he's going to see it from her point of view, especially being the nurse says right when she had to give him extra dose of pain meds.
Yep.
So, like, it's one of those things. It's like a very real situation like people go through. I still don't like her yelling at her.
No, I didn't like her yelling at him. It was brutal.
Like,
it was
go upstairs and scream into a pillow, please.
Yeah, it's brutal
Yeah.
because obviously, I mean, he feels terrible enough, and then she's screaming at him, and she's stressed out. She says, I have to go to work, so obviously you get the idea that she wasn't working till he got ill, so there's a lot of stress. And again, this is a real situation that people get into. And I thought that was an interesting look into a real dark slice of life that Lynch and Frost did here.
Yeah. And, it's uncomfortable. And like, we know people who've been in that, or it's tough. And
we're at that age, right? We're yep. Enough. We know people in that situation.
And, this very real, like, uncomfortable scene is followed up by 5 minutes of a guy sweeping the green onions, which I promptly fast forward.
I'm not going to lie. I did the same thing this time around.
Like, I'm sorry, like, people who think it's genius and all that, all the power to you. I'm not going to sit and watch it. I don't get anything out of it. I get out of watching weirdness of, I get the abstract elements of Eraserhead, gives me feelings like that. The sweeping scene does not. It does not. I do not get anything out of it. It's just, I
expected some kind of payoff, right? Like, if you're going to do a 5-minute scene like that, give a payoff, right?
Have you ever seen a Lynch movie?
No, I understand. I know this is a Lynch thing, right? But I mean, this was Lynch being Lynch to be Lynch, right? Like, he knew what he was doing here.
Oh yeah, he knew people weren't going to like it, and he knew like people are going to lie about liking it, because I've seen a lot of people defend this on social media, and I was just like, why is this the hill you're willing to die on?
The 5-minute sweeping thing, to have it be a phone call with Jean-Michel Renaud talking about 2 15-year-old prostitutes who have straight A's,
they had good IDs, man.
Valid IDs, and they need to pay for 2. Yeah, that's not extravagant.
And also, just that's the thing that we didn't even learn from Secret History is the Renaults have owned the Roadhouse for 50 years.
Yeah, 50 some odd years the Renaults have owned the Roadhouse.
But they're Canadian, so how do they own a private business in the United? You know what? We already have enough problems on this podcast figuring out the business dynamics of Twin Peaks. Let's just let that one go.
Do you want to get back to do we want to talk about what happened with Ghostwood? Like,
well, we'll get into that when we do Final Dossier.
you're right. Yes, we will.
We find out what happened with Ghostwood.
We do find out what happened with Ghostwood there. I was expecting more Ghostwood and, save Ghostwood in this season. Speaking of saving people, the doppelgangers gets his exit. Along with that fucker Ray.
That fucker Ray. Yeah. How much trouble do you think the warden's going to get in for letting a federal criminal under FBI investigation of highest order just drive out of his prison?
It's not you. That's the thing. If I was the warden, I would have staged a breakout.
Prison fight or something where something happened or something. A plausible reason for Mr. C to get out, not just have an open door policy or you and that fucker Ray can just leave. Like, I mean, well, this is 2016, 2017, maybe. It's the Trump administration. He just pardoned them.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, we at this point, prison. I mean, have you seen the movie Ricky-O? That's what our prison systems are now.
Yeah, so now, Mr. C is out with Ray. I'm excited because, this, we'll touch on it because it's the more tangible part of the next episode for us to discuss. Part 8, because then it goes on a wild ride.
It does, and it's amazing.
Oh my god, yeah.
I'm excited. I think we both know the part we're excited to talk about. 3 words: over the top, I think, is where we're going with this. Over the top.
Of course, we're talking about the Sylvester Stallone arm wrestling movie. Actually, that does come into play later, so we'll get to that.
That's what I'm talking about. That's the part I'm excited to talk about.
And so this is followed up by the screen goes black for a while, and we hear some weird whatever. This is kind of prepping us, and this is something I did not pick up the first time I saw it. After I saw each part, I'd go on Twin Peaks groups on Facebook, and people pointed it out. And knowing like this, seeing a black transition with the weird noises, it makes sense. Is that we go to the double R and we see a time glitch. Guy, we see the diner from one side of the diner. Guy comes in yelling about Billy.
Yep.
And when it pans to the other perspective of the other side of the diner, it's all completely different people in the diner.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I did not catch that. I've seen it twice now. I didn't catch it both times.
Yeah, it's so that's kind of evidence that with all this time fuckery from the lodges, it's the real world's experiencing different things now happening in real time.
Super crazy. That's awesome that people picked up on that. That's fucking sweet, actually.
Yeah. I didn't notice it, and now I notice it, and it's really cleverly done, and it's very subtle. But it took, people were obsessing with it over this more than either you or I ever could.
Right.
They nailed it right away. Like, that's a different clientele in the double R.
Yeah, and obviously it's because of it's all the lodge fuckery is fucking with things because. I think this is my take on it that this is why the lodge abides by the lodge rules.
Yes.
Right.
Bob is fucking it up.
Bob is fucking it up, and there's a lot of shit that's out of place because Bob is fucking with the rules, and the White Lodge is gonna fuck with the rules even harder. So we'll see. We'll get at that a little bit later. Overall, this is one of those episodes that I think, again, moved the show forward tremendously.
Yeah. At the time, I didn't feel it, but again, we have having seen it, gone through it all before, and now we're kind of picking it up as we're watching it and keeping more acute eye for things. Yeah, it's this was pretty big. Like Laura's diary, calling back to Fire Walk with Me, Leland placing him in there so he wouldn't be busted after Harold's place was. They found the secret diary there. Of course, they're going to find. He couldn't just take the diary because that'd be suspicious. Plus, Donna and James and all them have already. Donna especially has already read parts of it, so she knew it's there. It'd be suspicious if that would have gone missing altogether. This moves things along. Mr. C is out.
Mr. C is out of the Buckhorn prison and is going to where he wanted to go, where he was trying to get to before the detour. We also saw, again, Ike the Spike, right? I love any appearance by Ike the Spike.
Ike the Spike just comes storming out. I kicked by Cooper. That's
now. Here's a question. We didn't get into it. We're at the end here. But going back to the Great Northern and the hum, what do you think that hum was about?
Oh, I know what it is. We find out in the part 17.
That's what I thought. Okay. Yep.
Was this episode dedicated to somebody?
I did not see a dedication.
Are you? Was it? I have a feeling it might. I turned off my player after the episode got to the credits.
Yes, I'm sorry. It was dedicated to Warren. It was dedicated to Warren.
Yeah, I was gonna say because this is the one episode he's in. So yeah, I was gonna say I think it was dedicated to Warren Frost. That's good.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and in the notes of this, I go through and I look at things. You're right. The customer change during the credits was intentionally made by Lynch, but Frost is unaware of the meaning of it.
Yeah, I think we nailed it.
Oh yeah, we nailed it. Yeah,
Frost,
I don't think
Mark Frost is too stupid to understand his own project.
No, I it's a cop out, right? Like Frost isn't gonna say, like, you know what I mean? He's playing the Lynch card. He's not stupid.
I'm gonna say Mark Frost is a dumb piece of shit idiot.
Oh my god.
I thought he was smart all this time, and then you read that quote, and now I'm just thinking he's a fucking dummy.
Yeah, it's just the guy who got a fucking book signed by him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that this was, again, much needed from the last episode. Again, it's been, for us, you guys, it's been a month. But getting into the parts, part 6 was a slow crawl. And then this happened. And this is one of the things that you and I have talked about. This is our favorite Lynch work, the return. One of the only criticisms that I have for it is the pacing of it, right? Which is why I've always said, we know it's not going to happen. Why I've always said I'd love to get a movie cut version of it, like without the lodge, without the like a marathon mode for it, without the Roadhouse endings and things like that, where it just flows one episode to the next.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. This is Lynch's cut. He finally made his more than 5 hour long movie by making a 17-hour long movie, 18-hour long movie. I mean, the pacing is what it is. It's par for the course with Lynch. He takes things slow, so I'm naturally an impatient person, so it's very odd that I'm a fan of David Lynch.
Yeah, like I said, I love it. It's just one of those things to me where I just, again, I absolutely, this is my seminal Lynch work, right? Because you and I have talked about, I really think this is his swan song. He's talking about doing other projects. I don't see it happening.
Well, I mean, you never know. I don't think he's going to do anything as ambitious as this. This is his most ambitious, too. It culminates a lot of almost his whole career with nods and winks to just about everything that he's done sans Dune.
No, there was Dune references, I think. I think you could make points of Dune references here and there as well.
Yeah. How much he hates that movie. That's interesting. Interesting take, Paul.
Well, I understand. I think he hates it, but he doesn't hate
Final Cut.
What's that?
He hates it because he didn't have Final Cut.
Exactly. Yes. But there was things that, like, again, even I felt in the first season, the first episode of the second season, where Kyle MacLachlan was laying on the ground, basically doing a mantra. That was a complete throwback to Dune, and you see a little bit of that here and there, sprinkled in here. Kind of the general idea and the philosophies he was trying to get through in Dune. So yeah, I think there is a little bit of that sprinkled in there. But Joe, we got episode 8 coming up next.
Oh, that's gonna be a strange one. Again, like the first part of it is easy to discuss. Then it gets into like probably the most surreal thing I've ever seen Lynch do.
Oh my God, I was glued. I will get into it next episode, but I was glued to the screen that whole episode. I didn't even want to look away because I thought I was going to miss something. So we'll get to that. Joe, it's been a while. What projects are you working on?
Right now, it's just Joe down. Besides this and our Office podcast, this week we'll be reviewing Forrest Gump.
Ooh. I call that the male chick flick.
It's Happenstance the movie, or how boomers see their own history of the movie.
Yeah.
It's one of those movies it's entertaining, but when you start thinking about it, it's like, God, that's so fucking stupid. Also, it has history's great movie cinema's greatest monster, and Jenny.
Yeah, Jenny's a bitch. Jenny's awful. I don't like Jenny.
Jenny.
Yeah, Jenny's an awful character. Yeah, she's a monster. I completely agree with you on that. All right. Yeah, we've been doing The Office. Now we'll let you guys know who watch this. We're gonna throw away the thing. The Office was going, but we filmed that one. We do several episodes ahead of time, so that's why The Office kept going. The Office podcast kept going, and this one and Cast That Movie did not. So sorry to ruin the illusion of podcasting for you guys.
Suspicious we never bring up timely items in the Office podcast.
Very suspicious, isn't it? We don't talk about it.
What do you think of the news today, Paul?
Holy shit, could you imagine it trying to do that? Just because, especially this news cycle, where every day some other fucking scandal and some other fucking thing is blowing up in our face. Holy shit.
No.
Why did we talk about that? That happened fucking 6 weeks ago.
Yeah. Oh, wow. But yeah, what's the episode we got coming up this week? I think Bears, Beats, and Bobbleheads. This week it is The Client.
The Client. Yes.
Our good friend Tim Meadows.
I love Timmy Meadows. Yes. Yep, it's going to be The Client. Will be that one. And then
what's going on with Cast?
Cast That Movie will be back now. So that will be, we're going to be doing we're going to recast the Stephen King Emilio Estevez vehicle shit show that was Maximum Overdrive, that when I was a kid was constantly on repeat along with the Beastmaster on TNT and TBS.
Oh. Full confession, I really like Maximum Overdrive just because it's one of those fantastic bad movies.
Oh, yeah.
And also the fact that Stephen King was on so much coke, he barely remembers making it.
Yes, and was the last movie he ever directed.
First and last movie.
Well, I don't know. Didn't he do... He did a short direction in, was it Tales or was it Creep Show?
Creep Show. He might have done a segment in Creep.
Yes, he directed
that doesn't count. That doesn't count.
Okay, fair enough. But yes, he did direct a segment in Creep Show, and but yes, that movie, $9 million budget. I thought it had a higher budget than that. It was a $9 million budget, and it couldn't even bring that back in. So.
Well, over time, it has. To be fair, that movie it's such a cult classic that over time it's made its money back. I'm actually tempted to get. I think it's Shout Factory has a special edition of it. I might pick up. Again, I'm a sucker for these bad '80s movies.
You and I both, man. We grew up with them. We grew up with them.
It was Maximum Overdrive, Beastmaster, and Kickboxer. Not Kickboxer, Bloodsport.
I was going to say, I've seen Bloodsport more times than I can count, dude.
I've seen Bloodsport more than any movie I've ever seen, and it's not even like a movie I enjoy.
No, and you know what was another one that always played too that I hate and I wouldn't watch was 48 Hours. That was one that they always played 48 Hours and another 48 Hours. And I was like, oh, God, no. That is Running Scared. That was not. So, yeah, those are some of those 80s movies that I always saw. And then for our dream project, we are going to do the Hunter S. Thompson novel, Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail. So,
my favorite Hunter Thompson book, actually.
That would you and I both. I actually got that book from my late aunt. She knew I was super into Hunter S. Thompson at the time, to the point where I was running around. I was running around with one of those what do you call them that you put your cigarettes in?
Oh, cigarette holder thing.
Yeah, I was running around with a cigarette holder thing and wearing the hat that Hunter S. Thompson had.
The bucket hat.
The bucket hat. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was around the time that I took a trip to a festival out in Oregon and actually met Hunter S. Thompson. Did I ever tell you that story?
No, I did not know.
Yeah, I went to a festival that was being held in Oregon, in Harrisburg, Eugene, in the Harrisburg, Eugene area of Oregon, because this guy had gotten arrested for a large amount of marijuana possession, and decided that he was going to hold a festival to try and make himself, to get those votes or get the signatures so he could run for governor and pardon himself. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to that festival. So me and three of my girlfriends got in a Buick and drove cross country to this fucking festival. And I saw Hunter S. Thompson there. And I was too afraid to say anything because I thought he would shoot me. But I remember standing there in awe, just watching it. I'm like, that is Hunter S. Thompson. And my friend Christy, she was also a huge fan of Hunter S. Thompson, stood there as well and was like, holy shit, that's Hunter S. Thompson. I want to talk to him, but I don't want to get shot.
Yeah, that's crazy because around that time, especially Thompson, after mid-'80s, he was pretty much a recluse. He did not go, like, very rarely would he make appearances like that. So that's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was absolutely crazy. It was absolutely, yep. I remember that. We took off in a fucking Buick and, I saw Hunter S. Thompson there. That was the pinnacle of, like, everything, like, culminating into it. So, yeah, we'll be doing Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail, which I think is very relevant, considering what is going on right now.
Oh, no, nothing's going to be stranger than these times. Well, I say that, and then it's fucking going to get worse.
The floodgates have opened. It's going to get worse. I mean, President Caligula is just the beginning of the fall of Rome, man.
Oh, man, the sequel to this is just...
I'm not looking forward to the sequel. I am not. No, that's going to be a box office bomb, dude.
Oh.
So, yeah, that's what we got going on with Cast That Movie. So, yeah, we should be getting things back to normal. I really thought we were going to be a little bit more rusty than what we were this episode. But I'm glad that we're doing this again.
I am too. It's fun to be back. Yeah, I'm enjoying it. So,
Well, we got episode 8 next week, so I guess, you got any parting words there, Joe?
got a light?